Hello everyone, thank you for joining us for today for this live Intercem Asia Pacific webinar with Mr. Jamshed Cooper, Managing Director of HeidelbergCement India and Zuari Cement Limited. I'm Matt Owen, Head of Conference Operations at Intercem Conferences in London, and we'll be joined later on the call by Intercem founder and CEO Malcolm Shelbourne, who will lead the Q&A section of this session. If you have any questions that you would like to put to Mr. Cooper, you can do so via the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. Remember that you can submit your questions anonymously if you wish. We'll try and get through as many of those as we can in the time that we have available. If you would like to download today's presentation or to watch this or any of the other Intercem Asia Pacific webinars on demand, you can do so with our Platinum Full Access Pass. Details for that are available at asia.intercem.com. With that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Jamshed Cooper and invite him to share his screen and introduce today's presentation.
Thank you, Malcolm, and welcome to everyone to this webinar, and thank you for the opportunity to discuss a very relevant issues of today's times, and that is the sustainability, and especially in times today's when things are the economy has changed, the way the pandemic has spread, the business gets more tougher and tougher. So not taking too much of the time, I start my presentation with a first slide on which talks about a UNESCO 1987 Brundtland Commission report, which defines sustainable development, which means nothing but meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. And taking this further, while this is important, let me put it in my own ways, which I like to put it, and that we are just the travelers on this planet, and we are obliged to hand over the things which we have inherited from our ancestors, who did not give us this world as to destroy, but they gave it as a inheritance which has to be passed on from generation to generation, for that the generations to come can also survive and thrive the way we did in our lives. And this is nothing but all demonstrating a responsible behavior. Taking you to a point where you can see how the world has grown in the GDP, from 1980 to when we talk about GDP rise in 2020. From 11 trillion US dollars, it has gone to 84 trillion. And the rate at which the human race is consuming today, I think, you will require 3 times the world. So the need is more important, or the greed is important. We have to understand as a human race, the greed is not going to take us long. There is enough for everybody, as Mahatma Gandhi said, to meet the needs of the people, but not enough to meet the greed of the people. So I think one has to sit back, take a back seat, and look at how the world has to grow, and is it a sustainable development which we have to look at. Coming to the Indian cement industry, we all know now today we are at a capacity of 250 million tons, and which is the second largest producer after China. The per capita is around close to 225. It had touched 230-40, but with this pandemic, it has come down. The per capita, consumption of the global, when you compare it, India is very small in front of it, and that gives you an opportunity to say that India can grow. But also let us not forget that India cement industry at today's capacity utilization generates about 210 million tons of CO2 annually. And this is not small compared to the global. We are about 10%. I will talk about the 6 parameters, but I will spend maximum time on climate protection. So I will start with resource, but I will run through fast on these. And the first 3 points I will try to cover as much as possible on that, because they are very critical from today's viewpoint. So going to resource optimization, the first parameter, which is our mines, from where we start. We got to be very judicious about use of our quarries. improve upon how we quarry the mines and how we optimize the equipment, because the equipments are diesel guzzlers, they are fuel guzzlers, they lead to a lot of CO2 emission there also. So the quarrying, from the point of quarrying, and how do you import, optimize your raw materials is very important. Equally important is the recycling and processing of the water and the waste what we generate. So this is another area where improving the efficiencies and recycling and reuse comes into the picture. And in the quarry, you will find many a times limestone dust and many of the things which go waste, which are screen rejects like this, and the waste heat power, what we generate out of it, the waste heat, which we can capture, and we can optimize the use of it. So this will become a very, very important part for the cement industry going forward, to pay attention to it, pause a bit, look at it, look back and see that what is it going wrong in these areas, and improve the efficiencies at the starting point. Now I will talk elaborately on climate protection. If I was to look at the CO2, the trend of India, India was worst in 1990. It was higher than the world average. But over a period of time, India has caught up, and I congratulate all the players in the cement industry, Indian cement industry, who have done a marvelous work to catch up and improve their performance. So today, if you look at it, between 1990 to 2018, 120 kgs reduction, which is almost a reduction of 16%, which the world CO2 emission has come down. But in India, it has been about more than 280 tons of, we have been able to reduce the CO2 content, 220, I think, 800 to 580. So there is a reduction of 28%. But let me say that this is not the end of it. We cannot take pride in what we have achieved, because there is a long way to go, and we have to emerge as India to be one of the best in terms of delivering the lowest CO2 footprint as far as the globe is concerned. So I wish my senior colleagues, my industry colleagues, a happy journey reducing this CO2 content. Coming to the CO2 emissions, which I made a slide here. The CO2 emissions, in greenhouse gases contributions to about 74% of the contribution comes from CO2. This makes it one of the biggest polluters, and therefore the focus is on CO2. So if I talk about it, we have talked about 37 trillion tons of CO2 emissions are happening on the worldwide in terms of every possible CO2 which is generated. And about 2.2 billion tons is the contribution of the cement industry. It is phenomenally high. And of this, 10% comes out of the CO2 emissions on India. So India's today's capacity, if I was to look at, so we have worked, I did some small calculations, back of envelope calculations, and come up that, India contributes to about close to 210 million tons of CO2 annually. Talking about cement industry as a global basis. So every dollar of revenue the cement industry generates or it uses up, it contributes almost 7 kgs of CO2. So this is phenomenally higher as compared to other industries of chemical, iron, steel, mining, and oil and gas. So the cement industry, the obligation on the shoulders of the cement industry players is phenomenally high. And that is where the focus comes into it. And I'm sure our colleagues in the industry across the globe are paying attention to this. I say that, what are in the cement industry, what are the 3 areas where we decide, how to go about it. So the primary source is reduce the clinker ratio, because clinker is the sole single factor which contributes to almost 84% of the CO2 generation. And if you can reduce the clinker factor, that can be giving you the maximum benefit out of it. The secondary source is the fossil fuel. And the third is the emission and control of emissions, and you can carbon capture. These are the 3 which are, the third one is a little at long distance, but the 2 first ones, the 2 ones in the initial ones are the ones which are, I would say, low hanging fruit. So here again to talk about it, that if you reduce a clinker factor by by reduction per ton, if you do some 1% reduction in CO2, then you can, on the clinker factor, you can see about 7.5 to 9 kgs of CO2. If you change it to AFR, 1% will lead you to almost 2.2 and 2.3 kgs of CO2 per ton of cement. And you can see that, if you save on energy, thermal energy power, the benefit comes out very low. So nonetheless, the point which is made here is that the first criteria and the first area of attack for us should be the clinker factor. I will talk quickly about the low-hanging fruits. Okay, today Indian cement industry allows us to add 35% fly ash into blended cements, and my suggestion would be here that there are many cement companies whose clinker quality is very good, and without deteriorating the quality, they can take up the fly ash absorption to 40%. I think there is a need for amendment to the rules so that they can be allowed to add more fly ash and reduce the clinker factor further. Similarly, in the case of composite cements is concerned, the BIS has asked people to do a certain recipe of combination between slag and fly ash. I would say this combination should be left a little bit relaxed and left to the cement industry to do. Say, suppose there are certain places where you don't find slag, but you require minimum 20% slag to make composite cement. So if sub-cement companies who cannot get slag, but they can get small quantums of slag, if they are allowed to add 5% or 10% instead of the mandatory 20% minimum requirement, then I think some more people can manufacture composite cements and reduce the content. Let me put it like this, the statutory norm should be more derived out of, or given to quality parameters rather than the recipe of the product. If quality is to be achieved, by whatever recipe it is achieved, cement companies do have a reputation at stake to manage, and I'm sure cement industry would be very conscious about, every company would be very conscious about their own quality, and they will, based on the availability of fly ash and clinker and the resources available in their vicinity, they will try to maintain the quality of the product. On the incorporation of cementitious materials, I think when we reduce these and reduce the clinker factor and these things, then automatically your CO2 content will also come down. It will also optimize the usage of cementitious materials which are available in abundance in this country. And if we increase this fly ash incorporation, the back of envelope shows to me that you can save about, in India, out of the 210 million tons of CO2 emissions, you can save about 9 million tons per annum. It is a quick win, and it's a low-hanging fruit which we should not miss out. Then we talk about performance improvisers. We add about 5% is permitted in OPC. I would suggest that it should be allowed to be added in blended cements equally. If I was to look at the performance improvisers, where the 75% CaCO3 is the mandatory requirement, this should also be relaxed to about 68. I say again, come back to the same, recipe is not important, it's the quality of the product that is important. Limestone dust rejects are also there. We should be able to use this more in a optimized manner, and this could bring in a good amount of savings, and you can save by this particular method. If this is permitted by BIS, then we can talk about additional 4 million tons of reduction per annum of CO2 in the Indian cement industry. Coming to the government is almost 25% of the cement production which happens in this country. The government in infrastructure projects consumes close to 25% of the cement. I would say that this 25%, only just about 10% is blended cement. The government, if it takes a little liberal view and allows, there is some change in tendering process, and they allow to, or they themselves are interested, they should push for 50% of minimum blended cements to be used in all government projects. This alone brings down the CO2 emissions by close to 19 million tons per annum. I think these are some of the 3 quick wins which which are in front of us, and we should go for it. Talking about in the reduction in the secondary source, we talk about alternative fuel resource. There are a lot of municipal waste is available. I'm sure that the government is spending a lot of money, the corporations spend a lot of money to dispose of this waste. If this money could be given as a negative value and delivered, this MSW is delivered, and people can create RDF out of it. There are many people, the projects are coming up in India at different locations. So we should look at conversion of MSW to RDF and use in the cement plants, which will make it economical. I'm sure cement industry would come forward if this MSW is available to them at a negative cost. There are many alternative fuels available at negative cost, which is pharma waste, pharma liquid. So this should also become one of them. And this will help you unlock a lot of land which is held up into, locked into dumps which are stinking, which pollute the environment, and this can be a very big resource which can be for the government. And if anybody is using AFR beyond which substitutes a thermal substitution rate of 20%, I think the government should give them some incentives on this particular thing. And this is a journey from wealth to waste. I think it is again a low-hanging fruit, and this should be taken up on topmost priority in the Indian cement sector. WHR is another area where we are seeing a lot of things happening. There are many cement companies are putting waste heat regularly. Better late than never. It is going to add a very significant amount of power contribution, and it will help the industry in a very big way. It will also reduce the global warming, because you are reducing the temperatures of gases which you are releasing to the air are also at a lower temperature thereafter. WHR so far is not considered as a green power, but it should be given the status of a green power. And this will help further people, encourage people. Plus, I would suggest that, if you are putting up a renewable energy source, okay, then on terms of wheeling power, the state government, the DISCOM should look at a new format by which they give preference to people who are generating the renewable energy and transporting, and the wheeling charges, what it is happening on that, they should be given concessions rather than a very stiff regime of having one single rate for the entire interstate wheeling charges. Timely maintenance of equipment will further reduce energy, but as I said, kiln radiation, these are all going to take small steps, but they are necessary to take simultaneously in parallel. But WHR becomes a very important source today as of now. And this all will contribute, and we virtually rub our shoulders with the power generators, because you reduce the power, the load on the power lines, and this will help the overall benefit to the industry and to the globe also. We talk about sustainability. We talk about various technologies which are available. I will talk about it a little bit in the ahead of this, which is extracting CO2, liquefaction, and recycle waste. These are again, little long distant ones, but it is there. We should start working on these. I'm just talking about one slide, which is, the EU norms, which has come into play. The CO2 cost, which is being attributed, is almost close to $30 per ton. It is huge. If India was to get it, the cement prices would shoot up by almost 40% in India. There is an emission level which has been kept at 500 kgs in the EU. And the companies who are getting credits for that, and there are companies who will have to buy these credits. So these are all tradable systems which are available, European tradable systems. So this will come very soon in India too, but it has started in Europe. I think we should be, as an Indian environment, just as a cautionary thing, that this could also happen in India too. And we should be ready for this. Emission reductions, no brainers on, we should be compliant on most of these issues, and SOx, NOx compliances, which everybody of us is doing, and it should continue. Dust emissions should be controlled, and this is a must do. So nothing much to talk about it. On employee well-being, because sustainability is not only about the environment, business has to be sustainable. So employees are your key factors here. And I would say the health and safety of the employees becomes the focus area, and you have to fix up standards and monitor them, that these are not only documents, but they are put into practice. And we walk the talk when it talks about health and safety. Toolbox talks and things like that, these should happen. And I'm saying that if we should talk about a zero harms in every company, that people don't come to die in a company or work at a workplace. They come to here to enjoy their work, they come to meet their needs, and they should go back home, have home happy. And we say that everybody who comes to work at Heidelberg Cement goes back home happy. So happiness quotient is very important for the employees, and that is what we have to work on that. Talking about community, we know that the community does not like anyone polluting with noise, water, air, and this is something we must contain it, and it is our responsibility too. Water harvesting techniques and putting plantations and things like that. So, take community landscaping projects, which some of us are doing already. It should be accelerated and it should be moved, and CSR projects should be deployed in a time-bound manner in the need area, and this will also is a obligation which we own. And happy neighbors are lead to peaceful industrial coexistence, and this is the inevitable which we have to do, and this is a must do. Coming to shareholder value creation, I think there is nothing much to say. If you have done all the 5 points, the shareholder value already created, because you are ensuring that finally your company exists, company continues to work, and company continues to flourish and prosper. So the shareholder value created, the long-term journey of the company is ensured, and then you are on the journey marching forward, and you remain a company is sustainable both from the business viewpoint and also from the environmental viewpoint. Talking about a little bit on HeidelbergCement India, what we do. Okay, so globally, from 1990, it was 749 kgs. It has come there. The group has been able to manage to bring it down by 22%. And India, we are about 570. To talk about a little here, that carbon disclosure projects at Heidelberg scheme, it has improved our score, and now we have been upgraded from A- in 2019. Let me point out this very, very important achievement of the group. It is the first cement company to receive confirmation on science-based targets, which we call it as the SBTi. And our CO2 reduction targets are in line with the Paris Agreement and the global warming targets to keep it below 2 degrees centigrade. This is as a group, we are long on the certificates in the EU, and I think the group will continue to do. And we are driven in India also by the same principles and the ethos of the group. And we also in India try to strive and do our best possible, and we will continue our journey on that. On the medium term, we talk about reduction in CO2 content. We try to improve our energy. We have done a lot of efforts to reduce this energy requirements. Alternative fuels we are now considering almost everywhere. We are maximizing our blended cements, and incorporation of cement materials is at its peak. So I don't think we have headroom for that. But if the rules are regulations are relaxed, then we can improve on that. On the medium term, look at the carbon capture and other innovative technologies. But in the long term, I would say we have to do a lot of R&D to improve the yield and the processes, keep increasing use of AFR, alternative fuels and materials, and cementitious materials are also equally important to explore, and use hydrogen as with a long-term goal. With coming to carbon capture, I will talk about it, what the group has done so far. And it is from Heidelberg Cement, it is an unfailing commitment to achieve. So we are not going to fail on any of the commitments what the group has given in India, and also the group is committed to deliver on its results. In India, when we talk about blended cements, you can see that from 70% in 2017, we have increased our share to 74%, and the OPC content has been coming down. So this is a commitment. This is the result of a commitment which we give to our group and ourselves also, that we will ensure that we become ultimately, the group's target is to reduce our CO2 content to a lower to come at the committed levels by 2030, and by 2050 to deliver carbon neutral concrete. And that is what we are committed to deliver. Talking about some of the initiatives, these are some of the initiatives which the group has been taking. So if I was to talk about, when you say on these 4-6 items, you will see this TRL. TRL is nothing but it is technology readiness level. So at the technology readiness level, at on the post combustion amines category, what is being worked upon in many of the places, we are at TRL level 8. Similarly, in microalgae, which also is used for carbon capture, there we are at operating at TRL 8. In oxy-fuels, it is at TRL 5. In hydrogen fuels, use of hydrogen as a fuel, it is at 7 and 8 TRL. Direct separation and the lilac technology, which is there, which is we are at almost 6. And on electrification, it is still at a very nascent stage. I could have talked more about it. I had some videos on this, but because of paucity of time, I am not able to show you these videos. But if we can always put it and send it to you in some other manner for people, the participants, to see what are these. Coming to friends, the further initiatives in India, we started this initiative of Friends of Earth. So we also make cement, undoubtedly. But we also be very careful about, how do we involve the community in terms of generating their awareness to this. So this is the website we created. We started it in 2019, but in 2020, we launched our website where every tree planted is put with geotag on the website. Any person who can plant a tree, they have to provide us the date of the tree, location, geotag, the lat long of it, what is the size of the tree, and then we will put their name and pictures. Of course, they have to give a declaration under the GDPR rules that we can display their pictures. And year after year, we monitor the progress of the plantation as it grows. And there are so far a number of thousands of trees have been planted across the country, and more are being planted. And now, as it becomes a movement, I'm sure that many people will get motivated to plant trees. And these trees, we are forcing people that, please plant them on birthdays, anniversaries, or festivals, so that there is a value sentiment attached to these trees, and then you will take care of this. So based on this, we are running a program which is called Friends of Earth. And there are many people from outside also who have joined, and we thank them for their invaluable contributions. This is the picture of the glimpse of the art, the website pages of the website. We give you a Friends of Earth certificate also. And the website address you can always go, which is mentioned there. On the water positive side, water conservation, HeidelbergCement India certified by TUV is 5.2 water positive as of now. So you can see the Narsinger mines and the Yaraguntala mines where we are doing water harvesting, storing rainwater water. And, by this method, our farmers around our place are being able to take 3 vegetations, where the crops throughout the year. Earlier, you were able to do only 1 crop. Then they graduated to 2. Now they are at 3. Another important area where we are to, what we do, we should be able to measure. So this entire forestation activities and the plantation activities in the greenery project we have done, I said, what is the result of it? So from 2015 onwards, we started planting trees in a major way in our plants and greening the environment. And now we are measuring the temperature, which is 1 kilometer away from the plant and which is inside the plant. Every week we measure it and we check the difference. So the trajectory so far target is to achieve 2 degrees, and current difference is we have been able to come up to 1.2. So about 0.8 is yet to be scaled, and we are committed that by 21 end we should be able to bridge this gap and reach to a 2 degrees ambient temperature difference between our plant, which exists within the plant, and that exists outside the plant a kilometer away. So this is in our own way to measure our own performances. Coming to biodiversity, HeidelbergCement has been very aggressive, and we really walking in their footsteps, and trying to copy what the group has been doing. So we started also doing a biodiversity projects, and supported by, and the surveys were done by Bombay Natural History Society. We identified that after doing a lot of plantations in our mines, which were closed down mines and water bodies created, 117 bird species were recorded, out of which 86 were common residents, and there are 31 winter migrants also. We find them in our quarries, and 5 species are listed near threatened by ICUN list. Those are also can be seen at our quarries, and for that I thank also the group which is supporting us in a big way to promote us in this manner, and also encourage. So the group people are involved with us, and they really support us to take this project forward. On the CO2 label, I think this will be the first cement bag which is branded with a CO2 label. I think this will be the first cement bag in the history of cement industry where a CO2 label. So we are introduced a cement which is called as the Green-Sem. It is 100% blended cement, and it has got a carbon scale. So, the carbon footprint, the data is sourced from the GCCA site, and the data is from an authentic source. And this particular cement gives an emission level of 507 kgs per ton. We have been awarded Green Product, Green Co. And the certifications what are being received by us. So we are proud of having these certificates, and we will do our best to live up to the expectations of the environment, of becoming a socially responsible company and also an environment friendly company. So we will conserve, recycle, reuse and repair, however difficult it is, as we entirely re-engineer and cautiously innovate. With these words, I would come to an end to the presentations and leave it to Malcolm and Jonathan to take it forward. Thank you very much once again for your patient listening.
Thank you, Jamshed. That's very kind of you. I thought it was a very interesting and thought-provoking presentation. I appreciate the time that you've taken to put that together. We have a lot of questions and not a lot of time. So what I'll try and do is I'll try and see if I can briefly put together the theme. Clearly, you talked a lot about the environmental impact of the industry and the green agenda that virtually all cement companies are now signed up to. Before I go on to that, can we just talk a little bit about the impact? We're going to talk tomorrow about India in general and the market projections, but can you talk a little bit about the pandemic and the perhaps the impact of government stimulus, what you think that will provide for the cement industry going forward? Just a couple of sentences will be fine on that.
Jonathan, post the COVID, there was impacts were expected to be, devastating. But unfortunately, or let me say fortunately, that has not happened. Cement industry has projected a good volume. June, July and August were good months. The quarter was good. The volumes are good. And let me say that, the impact is felt more in urban markets. The tier 1, tier 2 cities are there, which are impacted. But the migration of labor, which migrated from the cities, construction labor, which went into the rural hinterland of India, there it saw a spurt in construction, and that has helped the construction in the tier 4, 5, 6 cities and rural India. So I think it is in overall basis, cement industry has not been that bad impacted as much as what the other industries have got. And I think a little bit of impacts here and there, but overall it is a positive. I won't call it as a negative impact.
And the government's stimulus package, do you think that goes far enough to assist the industry in recovering from? I mean, you say the impact wasn't so great, but obviously on a global basis, many governments are introducing stimulus packages for building and for regeneration. Are you happy with what the government's done in India?
Yeah, the government has been trying to do its best, and I think under the circumstances, they are done the best. They are pumping in a lot of money to generate employment. They are trying to see that the people get food, so that there is no social unrest. So the government has taken care on many of these counts. But ultimately, it's a country of 1.35 billion people. How much can a government do? I think people have to be also fending for themselves. Corporations have done a lot of things for that. We also ran as a company as a Annam scheme. For every bag sold by us, we were contributing 1 rupee a bag to serve the undernourished. So a lot of things as a corporate also we are doing, and the industries also should be doing about it for the long.
And I presume this is part of your commitment. The green agenda that you've talked about is tied in with being a much better community based enterprise. In other words, involving yourself with the community and making sure the community benefits from your corporate activity as well as the product itself. Yeah.
So, Jonathan, we on the community side, we do a lot of activities in our local areas. We do a lot of training also for employment generation. We are trying to teach and educate people on benefits of going green and what it holds for their generations to come. The ill effects of the generation also we are talking about. We are talking about with the communities. We are talking about while we talking about skill enhancement. We are talking not also about employment generation for the local people there. When it comes to providing services of various natures, we are running a program for animal husbandry also near our plant, where we are trying to see that the cattle breeding goes up and the employment is generated for those people. So second source of income also we are trying to improve around our plants. So these are some of the initiatives which are.
Thank you, Jamshed. I've got a specific question here that I'll read out in detail. If you need it clarifying, I'll try and do that. It's a question from a participant. Am I correct in assuming that some of the initiatives or low-hanging fruit that you mentioned can be achieved through the use of controlling and reducing the raw mix feed standard deviation in regard to LSF, IM, and SM? And if so, are you utilizing any technology to accomplish this?
So yes, we have deployed a lot of technology on terms of managing our LSF. We are ensuring that every heap which is created, it is customized to the need based on the fuel requirement. If the fuel mix is changing, we have to change our raw mix, and it is a continuous process. So undoubtedly, these are some of the things which the industry has already done. And I am sure that each and every one is operating at its peak and it is operating at its best. The low-hanging fruit which I am talking about is now dependent on some relaxations to come from the external environment. Internally, we are self-sufficient, and internally we are, I think, and of course there is always, we run a programs called continuous improvement programs, and that is a part of our day-to-day living. As I said that, we untiringly re-engineer and innovate on a day-to-day basis.
We heard yesterday from Mr. Singhi, and obviously through the CMA in India, the industry is doing a massive amount. You've already alluded to the fact the industry is doing a massive amount in reducing carbon emissions. Do you see this this commitment to the green agenda carrying on at a level, or do you see it increasing? In other words, obviously the impact of the cement industry, as you indicated, is substantial. Do you see this as a process of some sort of steady increase, or do you think it's going to increase very quickly over the next 2 or 3 years?
So Jonathan, a very relevant question you have put. We have a 2030 target to be met. So everybody has a carbon roadmap. As a group, as a company, as an Indian entity, we have developed a carbon roadmap which is monitored on a quarterly basis. It's not even a month, it's not even a yearly basis. We monitor it on a quarterly basis, and I'm sure every company would like to have this sort of an arrangement. Let me put it that those people who may be the late beginners, finally by 2025, there you will see a lot of rush happening. Then people who have been left behind, then they will try to rush up for technologies, and that time those technologies the costs will go up, and that would be a little rather too late. So trying to start early, I would strongly recommend that each and every cement company should start early to control their CO2 emissions and be able to meet their 2030 roadmap. What the Prime Minister of India also, Mr. Narendra Modi, has given his commitment at the Paris Agreement. So we stand by him and we have to support the country to achieve that. So I think everybody has to get onto this bandwagon sooner or later, better early than rather than late.
And I presume this will be a mix of technology as well as utilizing one specific source. It will be a range of different applications that will help. Yeah.
Jonathan, I lost you in between. I think maybe, but I got the question. What you said. Yes, it will be a mix of many things. Okay, it will not be just only technology. Technology. If I was to look at India under the CSI aegis, we had prepared a low carbon technology roadmap. There it was anticipated that India will require close to about 51 billion dollars worth of investment to adopt technology and do various things. So it will be a combination of all the mixes. You will have to look at internal resources, the local materials available, different types of materials available, your own innovation, ingenious approaches to the whole subject, and also at the same time start marrying the technologies which are available and start building these technologies, getting them in your company slow and steadily. But technology alone will be taking its own time. I think it will not be too early. But right now you are having a lot of many things which you can do on your own, and the government can also itself support us in doing and reducing our CO2 footprint by almost close to 30 million tons of CO2 we can reduce by these low-hanging fruits which I have talked about.
I think in a way, I know you lost me. That was the point. In other words, it's not just one thing. It's going to be a mix of a number of strategies that's going to get you to the level you need to be. That's right. Okay, Jamshed, I think we've just about come to the end of our time. So can I say thank you so much for the time that you've given us. I know you're a very busy man, so we're extremely grateful for the amount of time that you've dedicated. I know that we had a lot of people watching this morning, so I'm sure they've got something out of it. And if we get, I'm sure we get a lot of people who want to contact you, so we'll make sure they have your email address and they can get off something to you if they need anything answered. So can I say thank you on behalf of Intercem and all the people who participated, and hopefully we'll see you again at a live event. We're looking forward to putting a live event together in India sometime in the next, in the coming months. How long it'll be, we're not sure yet, because obviously the pandemic will dictate that. But certainly we'd like to do that. So I'd like to thank you once again and close this session. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Intercem, for this wonderful opportunity to talk to people, convey our thoughts. And thank to all the listeners, and look forward to, if there are any questions, very happy to answer, and work in collaboration with the industry and everybody to make this world a better place to live.
Great. Thank you very much, Jamshed. Thank you.